Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're digging into some pretty significant recent disruptions and changes in global air travel, looking at updates from around May 8th, 2025.
That's right. We've got news reports covering everything from geopolitical flashpoints impacting flights to, new travel rules popping up.
And the idea is to sort of piece together what's happening and what it might mean for you, the traveler.
Exactly. Starting with, well, a major situation in South Asia.
Okay, yeah, let's unpack that. The recent military tensions between India and Pakistan sounds like they had a pretty immediate and messy effect on flights.
Oh, absolutely. A huge effect. Pakistan took the step of closing its entire airspace.
The whole airspace. Wow.
For how long?
For 48 hours initially. And India, in response, had to shut down airports, 27 of them, actually.
27. That's
Yeah.
quite a number. Across the north and west, mainly.
Northern, central, and western regions, yeah. So a big chunk of their airspace operations were affected.
And the knock-on effect. Flight cancellations, I assume. Big time. Just looking at May 8th, Indian Airlines alone canceled over 430 flights.
430 in one day. That gives you a real sense of the scale, doesn't it? Lots of people stranded.
Definitely. And it wasn't just, contained within India or Pakistan. International travel felt it, too.
Right, because planes couldn't fly over the closed airspace.
Precisely. We saw major international carriers like United Airlines, Korean Air. They had to reroute flights significantly. Some were canceled altogether.
Just completely avoiding the area.
Yeah, and it shows how these regional issues can cause, like, a ripple effect across global networks.
I heard about some specific diversions, too. Flights heading for Dhaka ending up way off course.
Yeah, reports mention Turkish Airlines, Jazeera Airways, Kuwait Airways flights.
Okay.
All originally bound for Dhaka, but they got diverted, ended up in places like Muscat, Dubai, even Kuwait City.
Muscat. That's a massive detour. Imagine being on that flight.
Yeah, unexpected stops, long delays, a real logistical nightmare for passengers and airlines.
And governments started reacting, too, issuing warnings.
They did. Singapore, for example, put out advice against non-essential travel to Jammu and Kashmir and to Pakistan.
Which kind of underlines the seriousness of the situation on the ground.
It does, and it raises questions for travelers, about assessing risk and flexibility.
Interestingly, though, amid all this chaos, there was a specific helpline set up.
Yes, Pakistan's Ministry of Religious Affairs, they launched a 24-hour helpline specifically for Hajj pilgrims.
Okay, so trying to minimize disruption for that specific, very important journey.
Exactly. It shows a clear priority there, even when broader travel was in turmoil.
Okay, so that's the South Asia picture. Let's shift gears a bit. Other things are happening globally, too. Thailand's got a new arrival system.
Yeah, the TDSC Thailand Digital Arrival Card rolled out May 1st.
Digital, okay. So no more paper forms?
Apparently not. It replaces the paper TM.6 form for everyone entering land, sea, or air.
That sounds potentially smoother. Part of that bigger trend towards digital travel documents we're seeing everywhere.
It really is. Streamlining border crossings, collecting data digitally. It seems to be the way things are heading. Efficiency and perhaps better data management.
Meanwhile, over in the U.S., something travelers there really need to be aware of kicked in fully. Real ID.
Yes, Real ID enforcement. It finally started on May 7th after, well, quite a few delays.
So now for domestic flights within the U.S.
If you're 18 or older, you need a Real ID-compliant driver's license or another acceptable ID like a passport to get through airport security.
Definitely something for Americans and anyone flying domestically there to double-check they have sorted.
Yeah.
Don't want any surprises at the gate.
Absolutely. Avoid that hassle.
And one more data point, the Bahamas. Seeing a bit of a shift in how visitors are arriving.
Yeah, an interesting little trend there. In early 2025, overnight air arrivals were actually down slightly by nearly 4%.
Okay, but cruise.
Passenger arrivals were way up, almost 13% increase.
So fewer people flying in for overnight stays, but more people arriving by ship.
Exactly. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Are people choosing different kinds of trips? Maybe cost is a factor, or just changing preferences for vacation styles.
Interesting. So when we kind of zoom out and look at all these pieces, the airspace closures, the digital cards, Real ID, the Bahamas trend, what's the connecting thread?
Well, I think it really highlights just how interconnected and, frankly, how sensitive global travel is right now.
Sensitive to geopolitics, for sure.
Definitely. But also sensitive to regulatory changes like Real ID, technological shifts like the TDSE, and even these subtle shifts in, how people choose to travel, like we see in the Bahamas data.
It feels like there are more moving parts than ever.
There really are. You've got these sudden, unpredictable disruptions alongside ongoing planned changes. It all feeds into the travel experience.
So I guess the main takeaway from this deep dive is that navigating air travel today, it requires a bit more awareness, maybe a bit more flexibility than before.
I'd say so. Predictability isn't quite what it used to be. You've got regional conflicts, new tech rules, changing economics, all potentially impacting your journey.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you to mull over. Given everything we've just discussed, these sudden disruptions, the new rules, the changing ways people travel, how might you need to adjust your approach to planning future trips? What new factors should you perhaps be considering before you hit book?
Something definitely worth thinking about.
Indeed. Thanks for exploring this with us today.